6,938, 211, 37, 6,965, 1,214, 176, 92, 212, 8,907, 1.23, 119,845. 2018 148 44 7,310 462 666 742 1,416 675 11,463 39 212 31 7,506 1,265 159 185 223 9,621.19 121,083 2019 145 47,132 461 655 729 1,424 808 11,394 77 202 25 7,913 1,270 135 282 233 10,137 1.12 121,531 2020 91 34 5,743 327 479 544 1,041 728 8,987 105 185 14 6,269 755 59 293 18 7,698 1.17 116,685 2023 105 36 6,500 441 582 269 1,163 1,113 10,208 314 219 52 10,562 1,469 202 585 233 13,636 11.3 23,844 707 717 727 737 747 757 767 777 787 total a 220 a 300 a 310 a 320 a 330 a 340 a 350 a 380 total. Controversies, edit. Subsidies, edit. Boeing has continually protested over launch aid in the form of credits to Airbus, while Airbus has argued that Boeing receives illegal subsidies through military and research contracts and tax breaks. In July 2004, Harry Stone Cipher, then CEO of Boeing, accused Airbus of abusing a 1992 bilateral EU-US agreement regarding large civil aircraft support from governments. Airbus is given reimbursable launch investment, RLI, called launch aid by the US, from European governments, with the money being paid back with interest, plus indefinite royalties if the aircraft is a commercial success. Airbus contends that this system is fully compliant with the 1992 agreement and WTO rules. The agreement allows up to 33% of the program cost to be met through government loans, which are to be fully repaid within 17 years with interest and royalties. These loans are held at a minimum interest rate equal to the cost of government borrowing plus 0.25%. which would be below market rates available to Airbus without government support. Airbus claims that since the signing of the EU-US agreement in 1992, it has repaid European governments more than $6.7 billion and that this is 40% more than it has received. Airbus argues that pork barrel military contracts awarded to Boeing, the second largest U.S. defense contractor, are in effect a form of subsidy. See the KCX program. The U.S. government support of technology development via NASA also provides support to Boeing. In its recent products such as the 787, Boeing has also received support from local and state governments. Airbus's parent, EADS, is itself a military contractor, paid to develop and build projects such as the Airbus A400M transport and various other military aircraft. In January 2005, European Union and United States trade representatives Peter Mandelson and Robert Zoellick agreed to talks aimed at resolving increasing tensions. The talks were unsuccessful. The parties did not reach a settlement and the dispute became more acrimonious. World Trade Organization litigation, edit. On the 31st of May, 2005, the United States filed a case against the European Union for providing allegedly illegal subsidies to Airbus. 24 hours later, the European Union filed a complaint against the United States, protesting support for Boeing. Increased tensions, due to support for the Airbus A380, escalated toward a potential trade war as the launch of the Airbus A350 neared. Airbus preferred launching the A350 program with the help of state loans covering a third of the development costs, although stated that it would launch without these loans if required. The A350 competes with Boeing's most successful project in recent years, the 787 Dreamliner. EU trade officials questioned the nature of the funding provided by NASA, the Department of Defense, and in particular the form of R&D contracts that benefit Boeing, as well as funding from U.S. states such as Washington, Kansas, and Illinois, for the development and launch of Boeing aircraft, in particular, the 787. An interim report of the WTO investigation into the claims made by both sides was made in September 2009. In March 2010, the WTO ruled that European governments unfairly financed Airbus. In September 2010, a preliminary report of the WTO found unfair Boeing payments broke WTO rules and should be withdrawn. In two separate findings issued in May 2011, the WTO found, firstly, that the U.S. defense budget and NASA research grants could not be used as vehicles to subsidize the civilian aerospace industry and that Boeing must repay $5.3 billion of illegal subsidies. Secondly, the WTO appellate body partly overturned an earlier ruling that European government launch aid constituted unfair subsidy, agreeing with the point of principle that the support was not aimed at boosting exports and some forms of public-private partnership could continue. Part of the $18 billion in low-interest loans received would have to be repaid eventually, however. There was no immediate need for it to be repaid and the exact value to be repaid would be set at a future date. Both parties claimed victory in what was the world's largest trade dispute. On the 1st of December 2011, Airbus reported that it had fulfilled its obligations under the WTO findings and called upon Boeing to do likewise in the coming year. The United States did not agree and had already begun complaint procedures prior to December, stating the EU had failed to comply with the DSB's recommendations and rulings, and requesting authorization by the DSB to take countermeasures under Article 22 of the DSU and Article 7.9 of the SCM agreement. The European Union requested the matter be referred to arbitration under Article 22.6 of the DSU. The DSB agreed that the matter raised by the European Union in its statement at that meeting be referred to arbitration as required by Article 22.6 of the DSU. However, on the 19th of January 2012, the US and EU jointly agreed to withdraw their request for arbitration. On the 12th of March 2012, the appellate body of the WTO released its findings confirming the illegality of subsidies to Boeing whilst confirming the legality of repayable loans made to Airbus. The WTO stated that Boeing had received at least $5.3 billion in illegal cash subsidies at an estimated cost to Airbus of $45 billion. A further $2 billion in state and local subsidies that Boeing is set to receive have also been declared illegal. Boeing and the US government were given 6 months to change the way government support for Boeing is handled. At the DSB meeting on the 13th of April, 2012, the United States informed the DSB that it intended to implement the DSB recommendations and rulings in a manner that respects its WTO obligations and within the time frame established in Article 7.9 of the SCM agreement. The European Union welcomed the US intention and noted that the 6-month period stipulated in Article 7.9 of the SCM agreement would expire on the 23rd of September 2012. On the 24th of April 2012, the European Union and the United States informed the DSB of agreed procedures under Articles 21 and 22 of the DSU and Article 7 of the SCM agreement. On the 25th of September 2012, the EU requested discussions with the US, because of the alleged non-compliance of the US and Boeing with the WTO ruling of the 12th of March 2012. On the 27th of September 2012, the EU requested the WTO to approve EU countermeasures against the USA's subsidy of Boeing. The WTO approved creating a panel to rule on the disputed compliance. This was initially to rule in 2014 but is not now expected to complete its work before 2016 due to the complexity of the case. The EU wants permission to place trade sanctions of up to $12 billion annually against the USA. The EU believes this amount represents the damage the illegal subsidies of Boeing caused to the EU. On the 19th of December 2014, the EU requested WTO-mediated consultations with the US over the tax incentives given by the state of Washington to large civil aircraft manufacturers which they believed violated the earlier WTO ruling. On the 22nd of April 2015, at the request of the EU, a WTO panel was set up to rule on the complaint. The tax incentives given by the state of Washington and believed to be the largest in U.S. history, surpassing the previous record of $5